So David Castillo, how you doing, man?
I'm good, dude. Just fucking chilling, you know? Now, not kind of a lot and a little going on at the same time. It's a weird time, you know?
Yeah, that's an understatement. I think that things are weird right now, but hopefully getting better. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's the one good thing is that there's fuck all to do, so it's easy to kind of organize these types of things like podcast episodes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you definitely have room in your day, let's say, to do more stuff. And I think maybe just finding a new way to kind of, go about doing creative work and stuff like that, reorganizing yourself. I think a lot of people, obviously, this interrupted the whole world, right?
Yeah.
So it when you're forced to stop, our society is not very good, especially Western society, in terms of reflecting and having moments of reflection. It's a do capitalism kind of thing, right? So there's definitely positives in stepping back and looking at the big picture. Maybe not in this insane way, but I think that definitely is an exponent of it.
Have you talked to a lot of people about what's going on, like the sort of ordeal of the last year with respect to Saint Vitus specifically? Has that been something you talked about in like press and things like that?
Yeah, we've talked about, stuff like ranging from shit, man, Rolling Stone to like Polestar. I mean, everyone's kind of got a question for us in a weird way. Like, people are talking to like us as like the venue or the people behind it, like more than ever in this really odd way because everything sucks. It's not like the greatest thing in the world, but there's also been like a lot of positivity because of, how successful our Kickstarter campaign was and how that like has greatly allowed us to survive and the merch and doing all the things that we've been doing there. So it's been really cool, to connect with people. I always like connecting with like-minded and cool people. Sometimes it's a little bit like same question over and over again,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
it's gracious that people even care, So I'll gladly, thank the people who care to talk to us.
Yeah, you guys have been doing a really good job with keeping active during this period, and one of the things that you personally have been doing is your Age of Quarantine interview series that's on you do it live basically on Instagram, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun checking those out.
Yeah, man, I love them. It's really cool, all that kind of came through my best friend Chris Enriquez, who was in Primitive Weapons with me and plays in Spotlights and also works for Revolver and the Hard Times in Brooklyn Vegan. He just had the idea like really early on, like I'm talking like April of the pandemic. I remember it was right after my birthday, and he was like interviewing me like personally, right? And was like, hey, would you want to like talk or do something like this, like an interview style thing? I'm just going to start talking to my friends, right? And it started to gain a little bit of traction while we were talking, and I just loved the sort of vibe of it, and it was fun. And so I just told Chris, I was like, Chris, why don't we do this through St. Vitus? And we can kind of share it with like hosting duties, and we can kind of widen the scope a little bit and then give you a bigger platform, a bigger audience. And it kind of just took off from there. And then we got Artie involved, and then Caroline. Caroline's been doing mostly artists, like visual artists. So kind of interviewing that sort of side of the scene. And then, we just been splitting up kind of interview duties, and it's been a really nice way to feel like I'm having conversations that I would at the bar. Sometimes it's amazing to think about how many people I've talked to in my life like twice a year or 3 times a year. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of these things where, when people are touring through, you might get a chance. But now with this, it's like a deeper dive, and I learned so much more, even about people who I kind of consider, friends or that I've known for a while. So it's been really cool. And going back to your point about activity, it's, it keeps like the fires going too. I think a lot of people are interested to know what their favorite artists have been up to, or people that they kind of respect, and music that they follow and stuff like that. So it's been cool, and it's cool to just sort of provide something like that and to continue growing it. So we're just trying to keep the momentum and keep music and ideas and of like around music and culture of it like alive through whatever way we sort of can.
I'm aware of the Instagram live version of Age of Quarantine. Is there an archive of some of the old interviews you did anywhere?
So there's only Instagram live at the moment, but that is going to be changing. We're discussing a couple of different things, and also potentially doing, or definitely doing, like more of the podcast format, so then we can archive them and people can have them, and kind of start moving a little bit in that direction. And then there's been some chat about the name of it is called The Age of Quarantine, which was kind of a great name for a moment, but maybe if we want to continue it, we don't want to use that, kind of traumatic, honestly. So, just some different talks and like how we would want to approach it. There was also some talks about, kind of creating, like maybe even like a coffee table book or a zine, going through all of the kind of interviews and taking out salient points, and like even using like kind of the grainy photography that we have and all the flyers and everything else we did, and make it into something that people can hold, So there's definitely been some talks and thoughts about it, and, we'll get it done. It's just, there's been a bunch of other things on the plate, and now we're kind of getting to that, but it's definitely an aspiration.
Yeah, that's cool. Cause I just wanted to, if there was any kind of podcast or archive or anything, I wanted to point people in the direction of that. Can you, just off the top of your head, run down some of the guys you had on there, or people rather, that you've had on there as guests?
Yeah, sure. Personally, people that I've interviewed, like this week, I interviewed Sebastian Thompson from Baroness and Trans Am. Like genius drummer synthesist, right? Like so good. Steve Von Till from Neurosis, Aaron Turner from Isis and Sumac. Chris has done Dennis from Refused, for example. I did Sarah from Youth Code. Chris has done Vinny Stigma. I did John Joseph. Artie did Jason from Hot Water Music. Artie did Biffy Clyro. And Caroline has done Tamara Santibanez. And Adam, who's a Nightjar illustration, who's done like a million awesome, heavy metal record covers, like stuff like Gate Creeper, etc. So that's just like a small smattering. We have a couple of hundred interviews, and I definitely feel like with who we sort of get on there, we're pulling in our interests, a lot, and those things sometimes cross over and they don't. I feel like I definitely lean a little bit more towards industrial, electronic, post-punk goth stuff alongside metal and things of that nature that I like as well, which is just a reflection of a lot of my booking style and stuff like that. And then, Chris has got a lot of hardcore and stuff like that, and sort of like post-rock stuff. So Artie, kind of has a lot of like amazing connections to kind of like old post-hardcore and just like kind of like really great like rock, from all over the place. Frank Turner, he's done a lot of like really amazing shit. So it's just been really cool. It's just like we all kind of get to sort of do what we want in it, and then as a full, when you get the full picture, it kind of reminds you of Saint Vitus, right? All those different tastes, they all play kind of in the world of Saint Vitus. And, Saint Vitus isn't just one thing. It's not like the death metal bar or the punk bar or something. It's a amalgamation of styles and different people expressing themselves within this sort of like broader context that we've tried to provide. So it's really cool, and I'm really proud of like all the work that everybody's been doing with Age of Quarantine, and Chris for agreeing to allow us to do something with it. And it's really his brainchild, and we just kind of took it from there and kind of grew it to a cool degree. So much love to Chris, my BFF coming through.
Yeah, what's also pretty cool is like, when things go back to being live and in person at some point, hopefully relatively soon, you might be able to do some of this stuff in person with people, coming touring bands and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that I think could definitely be a part of it. There's always a little bit of time to kill, right? And like, for example, you'd have like Crash Bang Boom podcast, they like, he'd always be down there, like, filming podcasts with like, different drummers in the scene and stuff like that. And like, at Saint Vitus, and it like when we do get back, it will definitely be a thing. And it'd be actually cool to maybe even do it like with a couple of hosts at once too. That could be really fun, just to even just have it all together. So, we're definitely thinking about that, and that would be cool. And even with like a little bit of an audience, who knows if it's anyone worth having that for, that's also amazing, So we're definitely, like, I kind of stopped thinking about that too much because it's sort of unavailable, and I've had to sort of do that to my brain a little bit. I've always thought about events, and now I'm like, I never think about them, like almost on purpose. Like I shut that off.
Yeah.
And I don't like to go down the rabbit hole too much,
I totally get that, man. Definitely.
Yeah. Just like I don't have the option, right? So I don't, and I really don't enjoy hyperbolic conversation around it. I just am like sticking to as much of the facts and not jumping to conclusions as much as possible. And we've seen everything change so quickly that I'm like, okay, what can I actually do, right? So, and I'm going to stay in that mindset until something really shakes things up that will, new information. Okay, cool. Then we can go.
Yeah, no, that's a healthy way of looking at it for sure. I mean, even on my end with playing music, it's like, we have band practice, but the sort of vigor isn't there because there's no, mission. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I mean, we got a couple of these like live recording things, video. Like we're filming one this weekend actually, and it's just that's not the same. So I try not to pretend like it's the same. I just look at it as its own thing that we're doing and try to create some kind of energy around it in and of itself, and not liken it to a live performance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that you're totally right. I mean, like, you just can't fake the fucking funk. There's a reason why people love live music, right? And the reason is because you can't do this shit through a computer. Like, you can't feel that the feelings that you feel, the intimacy, the tribal nature of it, communing with your fellow man. It's it's this screen culture thing doesn't provide that, right? And so that's what makes it really fun and special and unique. And like, you're and also not nearly as linear, right? Everything is sort of linear through like a computer or through binary, I feel like. So yeah, in my opinion, it's like, yeah, just don't, a live stream is a live stream. You're making TV now. So make it TV. Take time. Do the song over again if it blew. Like get fucking dancers in there if you want. You know what I mean? Cut away. Do 3 different locations. Like, make it special to me, you know what I mean? And use the medium to your advantage. I think that would be, I guess, my take on it, and what I've also been trying to do as an artist, but also as someone who's, you know, obviously involved in presenting art as well, right? And you know, obviously that costs money sometimes, for sure, but there's been a lot of really great DIY examples of that. But it's hard, you know, it's hard to, as you said, kind of find the vigor, you know, and find the motivation, and especially when everything seems to be sort of flattened out into content, and your experience is sort of flattened out into isolation. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, for me, going to practice, I was always, you know, really excited. I always get up for practice, and, you know, and because I'm like, yeah, we got this stuff coming up, so I'm going to put all my energy into preparation so I can go out there and just fucking smash people when we play and all that. And without that goal, it's been very, very tough. But, you know, we've been staying busy. We did a live recording film thing that was like a pay-per-view on Bandcamp, and then now we're doing this other thing over the weekend. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to be presented to people, but yeah, just trying to make it like a film or do something different so people can watch it 5 years from now and not be bummed out, you know what I mean? And not be reminded about, oh yeah, that was the year where everyone sat home and gained 20 pounds and watched Netflix all day and didn't go to shows, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I think, yeah, I think you always want to make something that stands the test of time, and that maybe people would say, wow, during all that, they were able to make this. Maybe that would be great. You know, if that's the takeaway, right? Is that artists find a way, right? I feel like artists always find a way in for so many things, because people are creative, right? And that creativity can be used towards all sorts of different kinds of problem solving, and not limited to writing a song, but to like changing society. I feel that very strongly. And you know, like Joseph Beuys and like these artists, you know, back in the day, Fluxus artists and like German artists who are, you know, trying to kind of bring that thinking into society. And you've seen it a lot, right? Like design is now it's like a real job. Like 50 years ago, design wasn't necessarily like a job. Designing things, now design culture is like part of it. And what's design? Design's like very much creative problem solving, right? And I think that people who have artistic minds will always find a way to use their situations in a way that can be absolutely brilliant. And you don't need a lot to make a brilliant piece of art, right? So I'm excited. I'm still excited. You know, I feel like there's already been mad good records have come out this year, and beautiful pieces of art that have probably been made that will be unearthed, you know, and I look forward to it.
So you have like some different music happening, sort of cooking under the, you know, under the different mantles. Like you've been in several different bands, and now there's this thing, Confines, which I become aware of, but I don't really know the ins and outs and the background. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Confines is just me. So that's different to start with, right? Like you got other people to play with. I got nobody but myself. So I like say like about 3 years ago, I kind of always wanted to make dance floor music to me, right? So I always had this thought. I've DJed for years, and I used to DJ. One of my first jobs at nightclub was at nightclubs. Like, you know, I've done every job at a bar pretty much, you know, from, you know, bar backing, cleaning, you know, everything. And I DJed on the Lower East Side for years at like clubs, like playing everything from like hip hop to house, and all over Brooklyn and stuff. And I used to do it a lot, like every Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It used to be almost basically my job, right? And I really enjoy that, and I love to dance. And I'm Colombian, I'm Latin, I love to dance. I love a lot of the kind of percussion of that's found in sort of like these different Latin sort of derived dance styles, everything from like freestyle to boogaloo to even stuff that to me is like you listen to a Gang of Four song, there's something in there that feels a little bit Latin to me. And so as I, growing up, hardcore punk and then post-punk was like a really big thing for me. And when I started going out in New York, I just, I kind of started gravitating towards like, oh, this is like music that punk people dance to, industrial, post-punk, goth stuff, everything ranging from like, Front 242 and Nitzareb to, Bauhaus to Gang of Four, or more contemporary stuff like The Rapture. And I loved all of that shit, right? And so I had never made that kind of music in my life, right? Something that was oriented for that kind of moment. But I played a whole fucking metric ton of it, and I've experienced a lot of it. And I think probably besides metal, punk, and hardcore, it's the other music culture that I've truly participated in. So I was like, you know what? I want to do something that really expresses this side of myself. And at the time, the bands, White Widows was over, Primitive Weapons was, we're on like kind of an indefinite hiatus, and it just wasn't, bands weren't really doing it. And to be frank about it as well, I think I just also had something different in my heart, and I needed to make the things that were in my heart. So I set off on actually trying to do that, and I had never touched a synth before, really, a little bit because my friend Soren had let me play with him and started teaching me things. So I had never even written a song before, man.
Wow.
I've only sang songs, right? Like that Artie wrote, or that, I was like the final piece of the puzzle. So I pretty much started from zero, and I've just been very lucky to have like a lot of support from a lot of different folks. And I've already played with some of my heroes, support from people like Andy from Syntheside. It's a great party, and it's also a label. And, she put out she heard me DJ. Think about this. She heard me DJ. Then I DJ'd her party, and it was awesome. And then I sent her a video off my iPhone. Like, I was such a technical Luddite, right? Of me playing my 2 samplers into a DJ mixer, like live. And I sent her a video of me just playing, right? An iPhone video. And I was like, I'm doing this thing. And she like liked it and like let me play her party. And was like, dude, this is fucking sick. I still kind of can't believe how kind that was. So thank you, Andy. And also, just other friends of mine who are, like my buddy Travis Bacon, who helped me record stuff earlier. My friend AJ, who lent me the studio monitors to even get me started. Like I felt like people saw what I was doing, and they were just willing to help me out in a way where like I needed the training wheels. I had like no idea. And then I was lucky enough to put out a 3-song EP on Syntheside, and it got some good attention, and it was really cool. And I did a couple remixes. I did a remix for Full of Hell, which also seemed like people were, downloading, got into, like off my Bandcamp. And I was only on Bandcamp, I never really tried to reach sort of beyond that. And then I just taught myself a lot, and I had a lot of plans, like a lot of other people, for 2020, where I was like, I really want to establish this project more, play out more, release more music, and do that. I had 2 shows with Controvoid that I was able to play, which was really cool and very cool to do, and they were amazing. And one of them was with Shari, who's Void Vision in Philadelphia, which was such a great show. My first show out of state, and this is like year 2 into me doing stuff, and I'm just still like learning on the job, man. Like I'm figuring myself out. And and it was just so great. And then everything stopped, and it really set me back because I had a practice space that then fell through, and my living situation with, like, I moved to New Jersey to a home here that I already had, but like oddly I moved full time into it right before the pandemic hit, and it was just a big reorganization. And then when I finally kind of got things together again, I had some stuff that I was sitting on, but like it just wasn't right. I needed to just start writing again because my circumstance had changed, you know, so much had changed. And I needed to do it all by myself now because I'm like not going to studios. I'm not doing any of this shit, right? So then I had to get away from my Luddite tendencies and just learn everything. So it's been a process, man. But I probably have never learned more in my life musically than I have now. And it's been the greatest benefit. And for someone who's only had, like, you know, now I released in January a 2-song single on my own label that's called Factor, that I do with AJ from Sonnet and my friend Khadija. AJ is also my friend, but my friend Khadija goes by her first name, just Khadija, who's an amazing DJ. I put out 5 songs and, like, you know, a remix, and the support I've gotten has been incredible, you know? So I'm really excited, and I have a new EP that I worked on, and I literally made everything. I recorded my own, I put vocals on it, I recorded my own vocals. I think better and improved everything. And I spent a lot of time learning in the pandemic and really trying to come into my own.
That's great, man. So you make all the beats yourself and everything too, and all that kind of?
Yeah, man.
Wow,
I literally do everything. So if I basically started, I like learned basically. So I mentioned Soren. Soren was in Rosenkopf, amazing band that was on Weird, and then he has released a couple of really awesome records. One of my favorites is on it's called Retrograde Amnesia, that's on Bank. Bank is an amazing record label from New York City. Anyone listening, really worth checking out. And Soren's a brilliant artist and also a really lovely friend and a compassionate person and cool person. And so I think he saw something in me, and we were just liked some same stuff. And he really taught me on his gear, like at the time, how to do a lot of stuff, right? And we would jam together and just do these long electronic jams on, like, you know, on hardware. And that's how I just started. And for some reason, I just, especially with like drum machines, I had like an intuition. I've never played drums in my life, right? Like I know what makes a good drummer for sure. You know what I mean? Like I could feel it, but I've never really played, you know, but I just took to programming these beats, and something in me, I think, wanted to come out in that regard. And then it like, we actually played like a couple of shows together under the name Persona, and it was really cool. But the project was sort of short-lived because also Soren was exploring a lot of other things and he was doing his own thing, and that's totally cool. But the exponent of that is that he taught me so much stuff, or at least got me kind of going and thinking, that I was able to kind of continue forward. And then from there, it's, you know, one machine turned into 2, turned into 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you know, and I started learning so much more. And then I have to give also another like major shout out to Ryan George from Youth Code, who is a friend and, you know, to me, one of the best bands on earth right now. And just willing to talk to me, you know, like when you don't have bandmates to work with you on stuff, you know, like no one's bringing me the riff, you know what I'm saying? Like that shit's over. So I had to really like learn a lot about what certain things did and to kind of understand what certain pieces can achieve for me, you know? And he definitely helped me so much. And, you know, all love to him for that. And, you know, and AJ and Travis and Khadija, like all these people have helped me, even though I'm not in a band, you know, with them or anything, which is a really different context because I'm alone and I've never really written music on my own. So um, it was really amazing and cool. And it was, you know, you're obviously you make black metal, right? And you know, I always thought one of the more interesting facets of, you know, the one man black metal project was this sort of self-determinism of like, I'm gonna fucking do everything. I don't care if I'm a shitty drummer, I'm doing everything and I'm doing it myself. And there's this sort of pride of that. Uh, Even down to the name, Confines is it's all me, baby. You know, warts and all, whatever. You know what I mean? If I blow, I don't give a shit. Like I just needed something I think in my life at that time that I could fully take ownership and control of. So I did it, you know, and now it's like there's sort of no turning back. And this is really more of my musical journey now hinges on this more than being in a band for the foreseeable future, for sure.
Well, that's kind of cool in a lot of ways because you know last year, you know, everyone went through this extended period of introspection. Some people baked bread, you know. Some people tried to write the great American novel, and it looks like you had a crash course of audio engineering and songwriting. So that's pretty sick, you know.
Yeah, totally. It was really weird. It's like I'm maybe as like I maybe understand things now like a, you know, like a 14-year-old SoundCloud rapper. Like maybe I'm getting to that level on that end of things, you know, and it's pretty hysterical, but I also love not knowing exactly what I'm doing because I think it makes me different, right? Like I think that like I went out and I recorded all these sounds in my dad's garage. I do things in a way that's maybe antiquated. You know, I record all of my synths, no MIDI, straight in, you know, and I just do what I think sounds great, you know. And I've had help, right? Like my records are all mixed and mastered by Chris Lapke, who also goes by Alberic, who's like genius noise. Quantized Angel, his last record, is just fucking nuts. So good. Does tons of stuff for Hospital Records, tons of stuff for Synthesize now, and like a bunch of labels, right? He's just really amazing. And so obviously I ask questions, you know, when I'm like, hey, you put this distortion on this particular thing I asked for, but like, what are you using? Or like on my voice, you know, I never produced vocals before, right? I'm like trying to find the thing. And he helped me, right? Same thing with Travis, you know, Travis Bacon from Contra Cult, formerly of Widows Pact. He was like, hey man, I really like this particular vocal chain, like check it out, I think, you know, this is cool, like these people don't have to do this, you know. And I'm very thankful for it, and then I find my way within that, you know. So I guess it's like every time I turn in a piece of music, I'm also trying to like learn more and more, you know. And that's really been fun and keeps my mind going, you know, keeps me sharp. And I've had a lot to write about, honestly. So that's cool. And yeah, that's like how I spent a good amount of my time. And I'm excited to release a new EP on Synthesized, and that'll happen in May. And making some videos as well, which is really cool. Never done that before for this project with some really amazing people. And yeah, it's like we're off to the races. I will tell you, I do miss singing in a heavy band, though.
Well, there's no reason why you can't do that as well. Once you know, I mean, once people can be together in the same room, obviously, you know.
Definitely, and I'll tell you, the one that got away, as far as being in a band, is I was jamming with Greg Fox and Mick Barr before this happened, and we had like 2 practices, and they were so much fun. It's like playing with aliens. I'm like, I don't even know what you guys are doing in a way, but it was so amazing in a different way. It's just like they're both just such immense players, and the way that they think about music is sort of like it's like a hardcore kid fucking like, you know, landed on Pluto. Like it's amazing to me, you know. And of course I understand and I love their bands, but like I've never tried to play with them, right? So it was so much fun. And I'm look forward to continuing that when it's possible. You know, like Mick has a health issue or two that makes him very COVID conscious, which is cool. You know what I mean? And Greg's doing his thing. So when the time is right, you know, and I'm like back into like wanting to sing, which is pretty cool. So I added some vocals on my own stuff, and now I can do that shit from home. So fuck it, like I'm ready, you know.
So you're using actual hardware, because, you know, a lot of times people are, you know, like that I know that do electronic projects, they have everything in the box and they just use a MIDI keyboard and they have all this, like, you know, software plugins that they use. But you're actually using synthesizers and drum machines. Am I right when I say that?
Yeah, completely. Like, it's a mix, right? Like, I've started using the computer more as a tool as well, and I think it's stupid kind of like not to. There's some really cool stuff you can do with it, right? Like, and obviously as like a tool for like editing and arranging, it's like indispensable. But also like sound design wise and other things, there's some really cool shit you can do. But I'm just, the way that I learned and the way that I also like to kind of do stuff is like, I don't want to like look at too much information when and I look at a computer a lot anyway, right? Like we are looking at this shit. So I like to start just me and my drum machine, particularly. It's a call it Digitact Electron. That's my favorite piece of gear. It's like they call it a drum computer, but and sampler, which really is like, it's this very flexible drum machine that also lets you sample a ton of stuff into it, and you just have so much latitude with it. It's really an amazing piece of gear, and it's not too expensive. Also, if anyone's, you know, interested in it, but I like to just kind of feel stuff, you know, more so. Like when you're in a club, you ain't like staring at a computer being like, man, I wonder if this is in the right hertz range or something. Like that's more fucking nerd shit to me. Like I don't give a fuck about it. Like I'll talk to Chris about it if if he thinks, you know, like there's like that's like a different role. It's like you're a scientist at that point in a way. I'm like concerned about like, yo, shit, this fucking bangs. Like it's sick, you know. Like if it makes me literally dance, like if I'm wiggling in my chair or if I'm like really feeling it, then I'm like I'm onto something. And I don't get the same feeling when I'm just like starting in the computer. Maybe I'm capturing it right away. But there's that. And I usually have a couple other pieces with me. I have a pretty ripping monosynth called the Manther, which is super sick. It's made by Maleko. And I forget, what's the motherfucker's name? Oh, God damn it. Paul Barker.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He's he's one of the partners in the company. So Maleko makes some really cool shit. And they make everything from like Euro rack hardware to like guitar pedals and stuff that are really sick, you know, worth checking out for, you know, someone with your talents, man. But for me, like they made this one box called the Manther that actually Ryan from Youth Code put me onto. And it's just like that's basically at the moment, like my bass player. It's just like it gets mean, you know, low, mean. And again, like finding out stuff that you could, you know, pull the right things out of, you know. So I like to kind of start with those things mostly and just really build around rhythm, and then the rest sort of comes a little bit later for me.
So just to summarize, what's that gear list again? You got the Electron, Digitact.
Yeah,
is that it?
Yeah. So my shit right now is I have an Electron Digitact, I have a Maleko Manther, I have an ASM Hydrosynth, which is a wavetable synthesizer. So wavetables are super cool, very 90s, kind of a technology that came around in the 90s that's sort of coming back around again. And then I have this Juno DS. It's an 88 key like synth, you know, that like has weighted keys and everything. And like I'm a shit fucking keyboard player, like pure shit. But like I'm trying to get a little bit better. But it's been very indispensable for just really finding some like chords and like bigger kind of emotional moments that sometimes I try and get up. that thing is fucking awesome at it, and it's got some really great sounds on it, and it's just nice to have the whole spectrum, all 88 keys to play with right in front of you, and while you're doing something. You could press a button and kind of scroll through different things like that. If you have like a smaller keyboard, or like the Hydrosynth I have doesn't have a keyboard, it has like pads that are like keys, but it's just something different. That when you're kind of, in my case, fumbling around more than someone who's really learned, it's really useful. So those are probably the 4 pieces of gear that I use the most.
And what do you record into? Like, Pro Tools, Logic, like what's your
I
platform?
use Logic.
Yeah, Logic's sick. Logic's good, especially for electronic music, I think.
Yeah, I really like it. It's just intuitive, and a lot of people get bogged down in the details of this sort of shit, I think. And I'm like, I made a record with Alex Newport once, and it was the first Primitive Weapons 7-inch, right? And we recorded it all to tape, which was nuts at the time, honestly, right? It's like who's doing that, right? But we recorded all to tape, and Alex, for those listening, he's done everything from like At the Drive-In to Pop Stars, and he was in Fudge Tunnel, and played a Nail Bomb, right? So the dude's a fucking pure legend, like, in my opinion. And so he's like this grumpy, English dude, and he's like, mate, everyone's like coming in here, make it sound like Radiohead, and like we're like this weird post-hardcore metal band that like doesn't care about any of that. And I had never even sang in a band, and like at the end he gave me like this big hug just because he thought that I was like genuine, and we did it the hard way, like the super hard way, and that was a very big teaching moment for me as to like how hard making music that is really good in different eras, like how it is, and how sort of grateful we are. But it's like, at the end of the day, if you have something great already, a lot of the other shit just ain't gonna fucking matter, man. You got it. You know what I mean? Like the best hip hop songs ever written were like on a 808 chilling. You know what I mean? Like not too like entire genres of music as technology developed, and they didn't have like a million choices, right? Like they had like 30 presets or some shit total, right? So what do? You have to make cool shit. It's not about gear, that's just my point of view on it. And like I try not to get bogged down by choice. And so I think with the hardware, I only have so much room to create with too, and it's like, that's good. I think that it's like a good thing. I think people get lost in the box sometimes, or they get lost in other stuff that's like, are you like a data scientist, or are you like trying to make some fucking shit that moves people's asses? That's my thought.
Yeah, I'm always interested to hear what people use, though. It's just like what their basics are, what their go-to things are.
Sure.
I mean, it's like I have like a bunch of shit, and I only use like 3 or 4 things, really. So it's like, I can relate to that. You might have like an unlimited, bandwidth of things to fuck around with, but you always go back to your like go-to things, and then occasionally you expand and do something else, and that becomes your new thing and all that kind of shit. So
totally. And like tools are cool, right?
Yeah. Like
tools are awesome. Like if you have ever fixed things, right? There's like the main shit. You have a hammer, screwdriver, right? Like there's Phillips head and flathead. Like there's a couple of main tools that are like, a pair of pliers that are like always useful, always going to be in the fucking kit, that you are tried and true, right? And then every once in a while, you're going to need something, like you have a particular issue, you're going to need something special, And that's sort of the way that I look at it. It's like, you know what? I mean, I have a concept and I need something special for this. Like, I need the tool, to make that one thing that I can imagine. And that's cool. But like, I don't want to get bogged down in the tools. Like, I'm not trying to be Lowe's hardware. I'm trying to build a beautiful house or a nice room.
How do you find living out here in Jersey? So it's kind of a cultural change from living in Brooklyn.
Yeah, for sure. You know, the plan for me and my girl was to really, you know, she works for the DOE. I own Saint Vitus, right? And like that's what we do. So our lives are very much in New York. But the idea was we have a home here, and then we were like, all right, our lease was up on our apartment, and we were paying too much for it at the time, especially with what we had going on here. So we were like, yo, let's go to the house, you know, do a couple things to it, like see what like kind of flipping the scenario is, like being out here a bit more and then going into the city more and just feeling that. And then if we need something in the city, if we feel like it's like too much or whatever, we would maybe, you know, share an apartment with a friend or just get a room, you know what I mean? That like we can hang out and then go back to a spot that's our own, but it's not like a full apartment that we got with the intention of living in it 24/7. And we did that in January of 2020.
Oh man,
So it was
right
like,
before the onslaught. Yeah.
so it was, yeah, it was like, you know, in a Bronx Tale when they say now yous can't leave, and they like lock the bikers in the bar and they like kick the fucking shit out of them. It's like, it was like now yous can't leave. Oh, you know, like we're in here, you know. But it's a blessing, you know. We're really fortunate. Marissa has been working through the whole time, and I've been here, you know, doing what I've been doing to get Vitus through this situation with my awesome partners, Artie and George, and making those moves. And, you know, to have the space in a lot of the outdoors, right? I live close to the beach. I live, you know, close to a lot of wilderness. That's really cool. The cultural shock of it all is I'm from fucking Long Island, man, you know? So Asbury is almost like the Austin of New Jersey or something, right? There's a lot of
now it is, man. Back in the when I remember Asbury Park, it was like pretty rough, you know.
Well, it was fucked up then too. I mean, I used to go down and go to hardcore shows, you know, so for sure. But I think that this place was really kind of brought back by who? Queer community, artists, people like that, right? They're not too different from a lot of other cities and places and stuff, right? That it always sort of happens that way. The difference is that here, the queer community bought a lot of stuff too. So they're not really getting pushed out as much, it feels like. But in the surrounding areas, it's definitely like the culture wars of the time are raging, right?
Sure.
And I grew up on Long Island in a pretty fucked up place that was like, you know, it was very 50-50 Republican Democrat. And of course that tension wasn't what it is now at the moment, or it's, you know, ebbed and flowed, but you know, that's like sort of where I'm from. So I'd say that I'm like a little bit close. Like we picked the area because there are a lot of like-minded people in this particular area. And like, if you look at, for example, like voting or something, you know, these particular areas, like these couple of towns, Asbury, Neptune, etc., they went Democrat by a good margin. And it's a little bit different. Like I didn't move here. I moved here knowing that and knowing what was also right next door. You know what I'm saying? But I don't interact with a lot of people either. So I don't feel it all that much as well, you know? It's a weird fucking time, you know? Everything's on the internet, it feels like. So it's definitely strange. I'm very lucky that there's been some people that we knew here before we were here, and we have our little like pod, and it's chill. And there's some really great friends here, and that's amazing. And it definitely helped not to feel so alone, you know? But do I miss the city? Do I miss Brooklyn? Do I miss the large chunks of my life? Yeah, absolutely. And it also feels like I never really got going over here anyway, in a weird way, you know? It's been a little bit of a purgatory, but not it's not horrible. My situation's fine, you know? Like, in fact, it's fortunate as fuck. It's just like sort of what happened, you know? So it's a weird one.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's like it would be easier if we weren't in a pandemic to live out here. I think just being able to do things in the city. Like when I moved out to Jersey, I was like fully intending on spending a lot of time like around Brooklyn and New York, in the city and all that kind of stuff. And there's no reason to go back in there right now to do anything. So it's like that, being absent from my life has changed things quite a bit for me and made things a lot more insular. And as far as like band practice goes, like everyone's out here and we have our space, out near the shore and all that kind of stuff. So that's all set, but like socially it's been kind of weird, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, my parents live on Long Island, like, and I haven't seen them in ages, but they're just started getting their shots. So
Yeah.
that's fucking rad. And my parents are old, like I'm 37, but my dad's 80, I'm the youngest. So to give you like an idea. So it's been harrowing, in that regard. And like, it's not just my friends and a lot of my best friends live Brooklyn, Queens, Long Island. Like I didn't try and move away, didn't go to fucking California or some shit. I was like, okay, cool. This is a life move that gives me access to all this stuff too, right? And the idea that, potentially just having a place in the city that was cheaper, and would make things work for me in a different way and my family and stuff. So that part of it is the roughest, is not being able to see, I've met my best friend's youngest daughter once, you know what I mean? Not being able to see my parents throughout an entire holiday season when they are as old as they are, likewise on the other side of my family with my in-laws, and they're very compromised, so with the numbers soaring around, October, it's like I would come in from time to time just to check on, even just walk into Saint Vitus. Just, it's good to know that it's still there. It's almost like everything becomes an avatar. You're like, what's real? So it was good to do that. And also to, checking on a couple of friends, be outside. That was cool to me. Like I was willing to do that sort of stuff. But when, everything starts raging again, it's like everyone has to be smart and to take care of themselves and be healthy and go back towards, like you said, that more insular living. And that was, that's always difficult, man, so not to mention that like our kind of lifestyles are like erased by this fucking thing, Like, when's the last time you didn't go to a show for a fucking year?
Oh, dude, never. I think, like before I started going to shows was the last time
my brain wasn't even fully developed,
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
I don't even know. So it's very strange, but it's also made me learn a lot about myself and I think what I can be capable of, which is nice. And that's cool. But like you were saying, like the vigor for like playing a show and stuff, even when you accomplish things in a way, why do you do it? You know what I mean? Who do you share it with? What's the vibe? You know what I mean? It's like a lot of that's really important. And obviously, I have folks to do that with, but not like in real time. And that's really hard. I had many people have like, momentous birthdays, and my brother didn't get married yet because of this shit. Like, the list goes on, and we all have that, and I'm super lucky that no one's fucking died, man. In like in my immediate vicinity. In the wider vicinity, of course, devastating losses, like across the board, it's been fucked up. It's like, I was once at a talk with Damien Eccles, and he was talking about how like race car drivers say never look at the wall because then you'll crash. I feel like everyone's been trying to not look at the wall a bit, right? And I think we'll all be processing this for a very long time afterwards.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely what we're going to be doing. And also, the changes, just like, the deep changes that have happened in everyone are going to become more apparent as the years go by, and the way the changes in lifestyle, the changes of philosophy and point of view and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be long lasting, for sure.
Yeah, and that's, we're still, I think that there's a light now. That's great. But let's be more, you have to just listen and be a bit more judicious about all of that, right? It's like shows aren't coming back like tomorrow. I don't give a fuck, like it's just not what's happening. And also you have to remember what a show actually is, right? I know you haven't been to one or felt it before, but especially a hardcore show or a punk show or something like that, right? Do you want it to not quite be the same experience as well, right? It changes things. So we'll see what's available to us and how those choices sort of play out, But would I love to get people back to work and for art to be happening? 150%. I'd do whatever it took, right? That would make sense in terms of people's health and the financial health of, what we're trying to accomplish here, right? So it's we're not out of the woods yet. There's not a lot of guidance, and there's a lot of work to be done. But there's reason for optimism now for the first time in a year.
Yeah, well, in 4 years, really, but yeah, especially over the last year, for sure.
Definitely, just in regards to COVID-19. Now the rest of
the rest of stuff we're still fucked.
Circus.
Yeah, we still got a lot of problems with respect to the huge split in the country.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? It's like the same thing that we were talking about individually, right? Is like everyone had to stop, and now the whole country had to look at itself in the mirror and be like, what the fuck are we doing? Killer cops everywhere, capitalism going through the fucking roof, and like billionaires making, I don't know how many more millions and hundreds of millions of dollars throughout all of this. You know what I mean? The wealth inequality, which leads to more racist sort of behavior as far as the systemic parts of it, and the self-perpetuation of all this stuff while we're going through, people are hurting in an unprecedented way. And it's like, look, like we need to sort of think about what we're doing here as a country, as a people, and people could pause to think about that for a moment, and everything was on full display, nothing else happening, right? And I think that the reckoning, the falling out of that is still sort of happening, and I look forward to it, honestly. I feel like, we need to clean up our act. There's so much stuff. And, even right now, man, with like Greg Abbott just opening up Texas. Like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? You know what I mean? Like, if you think like, Cuomo over here wagging the dog with his sort of like, hey, all these things can sort of be open, which is like, fine, we want things to be on a path to reopening and stuff. But, when I get asked about this shit, like I'm some sort of expert, I'm not. But what I do know about dealing with anything in the city of New York is just that, there's a lot of rules, right? So you could say something and show a slide at a press conference, but what it really means and dealing with that is two different fucking worlds. You know what I mean? So again, what I was saying before, like not jumping to conclusions and just really digging into the information presented and seeing if it's a tangible thing, a good thing, and something that makes sense for the business and the clientele. And then when you go towards something like, and that's like, my little corner of the universe, and we don't, have schools open yet. You know what I mean? Like the societal priority of this stuff is definitely out of whack. I think, but it's because why? There's been no real aid doled out yet too. So all these small businesses are on the ropes, you know. You have to like kind of look into that, you know. And we're kind of in, you know, for the first time, like venues are in like this very politicized sort of situation, just the actual health of them and what music means to people and all that. And then you have people in Texas who are just like, woo, let's just throw it off. And what does that mean? People are going to fucking die, man. It's not the time.
Yeah, well,
That's what
I mean, Texas has demonstrated stuff as, I mean, just the way that they handled, you know, the horrible weather they had and the power issues and the lack of infrastructure. And now this complete disregard for logic, you know, it's just, it just really says a lot about that conservative mentality, you know?
yeah. And then it's just like, it's a problem if it happens to you, you know? And then like, it's just difficult, right? You're putting people, you're pitting their livelihoods and what they know as survival versus their health, right?
Yeah.
And for some people, they're like, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance and disinformation and stuff like that. But when you do stuff like that too, you're creating a clusterfuck already. Like that particular situation is there, you know, where it's like, it's really bad, you know. That situation did not need to be created. There's plenty of wealth to make that go away or be better, where people wouldn't have to make that decision. Now, if they want to believe what they want to believe and other things of that nature too, again, that's a lot of disinformation, a lot of, you know, things of that nature. But it's like, talk about exacerbating that, or people willfully maybe believing certain things because they're put in a very hard position, you know. I try and empathize with people best as I can, and not just, you know, be like, oh, they're all fucking idiots and jerks and stuff like that. It's hard to, you know, necessarily feel that when, you know, you sort of gone through it a little bit too, you know. But like, I don't know, you know. It's just, it exacerbates, I think, a lot of bad thinking and like worse actions, and that really sucks, you know. And it's hard for people.
Yeah, you know, people just want to believe the narrative. They want to fit whatever narrative is to their desires. You know, they want to believe certain things because it fits this, you know, ideology that they have, or this comfort level that they want to maintain. And I think that's, you know, what happens. It's like this bias against the truth, you know, and because it goes against what your belief system is. And that's, unfortunately, in this country right now, there's all these big psyops going on. You know, I remember reading about psyops back in the 90s, you know, and I was like deep into like Feral House books and everything. And now it's like, it's just all by the numbers, like mind control bullshit that's going on. Like different groups of individuals trying to, you know, just put themselves in this position of power.
Yeah, it's really fucking wild, you know. And with the way, you know, media is and the state of journalism and a lot of different things, man, you know, it's not, it's, you know, I feel like a lot is by design, you know. And like, there's a lot of people, you know, clamoring for power, and you know, all I know is that 99% of people are caught in the middle, you know, or 95% of people are caught in the middle of those sort of interactions. And that's really tough, you know, to deal with. And especially now, you know, it's like you've seen the way that this level of crisis that has killed 500 million people, how it's been handled in this country. Like, dude, and who's it killed more disproportionately? And like, go into the numbers, you know, they're poorer, they're darker skinned, they're, you know what I mean? Like, all of the same warts are coming out like kind of over and over again, you know? So I think as far as all of these things, pandemic might end, but the reckoning, the things that people have seen, I hopefully will stick with them and maybe lead to, you know, new ideas, new change, creative thoughts on moving this thing forward, you know, this project of the United States.
Yeah, man, I hope so. You know. Well, Dave, thanks a lot, man. You've been very generous with your time, and you know, I appreciate that. And before we sign off, is there anything we should be knowing? We should know about? Like, where can we check out your Confines? Any Saint Vitus related stuff you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, sure, man. So regarding Confines, you can find me at Confines World. That's Confines World is on Instagram, and that's mainly what I'm on, is on Instagram, and then on Bandcamp, Confines World at Bandcamp. And then, you know, Saint Vitus, you know, we got a bunch of new merch coming out in April and a couple of new things, you know, dropping in March. So look out for that at Saint Vitus Bar on like every platform, even TikTok. Woo! And yeah, and so the last thing is Factor Music, which is Faktor. So check out Factor. It's you know, on Bandcamp, and we have some great releases we have singles by myself, Confines, Annunziata, who's AJ's project, another single there, Octonomy, who's fucking amazing, and same thing with Byproduct, who's amazing. So check out Factor Music if you're into like industrial and techno and kind of the darker shades of dance music, dance floor music. You might like what you find. So Mike, thanks for having me, man.
Hell yeah, man. Cool. It's great talking to you.
Definitely, brother. Talk to you soon, homie.
You got it.
the rebellion, Vitus witness, sprinkling the blood on this sadness. In the rebellion.